Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. In these daily videos, we bring you the latest news with respect to potential price rises and potential price falls. If you're looking to build up that essential team value or you just don't want to be priced out of potential moves, look no further than this series and this YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be focusing on some budget defenders that look like they might be rising and discussing whether the fixtures and stats that they've got warrant bringing them in or whether we should be looking elsewhere. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's get to today's video. So guys, before we jump into telling you about the actual price changes for this evening, I just wanted to remind you all that wildcard transfers do not count towards price changes, and therefore when we're trying to predict price changes, not only do we have to look at the algorithm, but we also have to try and predict how many of those transfers are on wildcard and how many of those are therefore effective transfers or how many are not effective. Therefore, the more people that are on wildcard, it is more and more difficult to try and predict price changes as a result of that. So there might be some slight discrepancies between what we're predicting and what actually happens. The less wildcards that are in play, or the more wildcards that have been played in the past, we tend to get more accurate over time, not only as the machine learns the algorithm more and more, but also there are less wildcards in play, and therefore we can predict more accurately which transfers are effective. So hopefully that's clear. So obviously, because of the amount of transfers that were probably on wildcard last week and trying to work out how many of those were effective, there might have been some slight discrepancies in predicted price changes, like, for example, Heung-min Son. However, having said all of that, it actually looks really, really quiet this evening. However, I am recording this right at the start at half-5. I'm recording it right at the start of the Brentford-Chelsea game. Obviously, if anything crazy happens in that, if Tony scores a hat-trick or anything like that, then of course it would completely change the transfer activity, and there might be some Chelsea and Brentford players start popping up one way or another. But at the time, there are only actually, at the moment, there are only 4 potential price rises predicted at the moment, but there are a few sort of lingering around that boundary. The one that is most highly predicted to be on the price rise this evening is the guy that's on the thumbnail, and that is Tino Livramento. He's been a fantastic £4 million option. He's obviously now 4.2 million, and he looks like he might be rising to 4.3 million pound this evening. And another budget defender, which I'm looking to compare him with, as you can see on the screen by the heat maps, is Pontus Jansson. And Jansson has been slowly going under the radar, as has a lot of the Brentford defenders themselves. He has already had a price rise up to 4.6 million, but it looks like he could be going up to 4.7 million this evening. He's already at 8.9% ownership, but it looks like by the time next weekend swings around, that could be over 10%. And as I said, if Brentford do anything today, if they somehow manage to keep out Chelsea, then Pontus Jansson could be even higher on that. And he looks like he will be getting a price rise this evening. What I would say about both Livramento and Jansson is they're both rising at less than 1% per hour, which means at the time of recording, not that many managers are bringing them in. But because Livramento had just got a clean sheet, I think it's quite likely that more managers will now be bringing him in. And like I said, if Jansson does anything, it looks like more managers will probably bring him in as well. So at the moment, those are the 2 budget defenders that look like they're going up. Outside of Livramento and Jansson, we have Walker. But again, Walker did not feature today, so I think the transfer activity will halt on him. So he is currently over 100%. He's at 103.1%. But due to the fact that he didn't feature today, I doubt anyone's going to be looking to bring him in now. So he might just stay on the boundary for a while here. But at the moment, he is over 100. So we're predicting that he could rise. And the other player is Edouard Mendy, the Chelsea goalkeeper, who looks like he might be getting his first prize rise. But again, a lot of the transfers for Mendy might have been on wildcard, in which case he might not go up. And if he doesn't keep a clean sheet against Brentford tonight, I don't think there'll be many more transfers for him. So both Mendy and Jansson, I would say, might be largely dependent on the result of the Chelsea-Brentford game, which is, of course, happening just as I've started recording this. So those are the 4 players that look like going to rise in price tonight. With respect to potential price falls, there's no one really of note as I'm looking at this right now. All of the players are very, very lowly owned. The only 2 that look like they might be falling in price that might be of note to managers are Basuma, who looks like he might be going down to 4.5 million pound, and Diogo Jota is probably the most notable that I know a lot of people also own already. He's 15.7% owned, so I think a lot of you still held on to him for that Watford game. He didn't feature at all today, so you might be getting some jammy Livramento points off the bench. If he goes down to 7.5, you might lose the value you bought in him, but it's likely you bought him at 7.5 million rather than 7.6 million. If you bought him at 7.5 million, him dropping from 7.6 to 7.5 won't affect your selling price at all. So you can absorb that fall and it won't affect. So have a look at the price that you bought him at. You can do that by heading over to the Fantasy Football Fix website. But if you bought him at 7.5, it doesn't matter that it looks like he's falling. But he is at 114% or minus 114%, and he is falling at minus 3.2% per hour. So we can say with relative confidence, it does look like Jota is going to fall tonight. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's not that much going on. So what I wanted to do, therefore, is to compare Tino Livramento and Pontus Jansson. Those are the two budget defenders. Again, Pontus Jansson is £0.4 million more than Livramento, but they're both still fairly cheap and both look like they're going up in price tonight. As you can see, the touch maps are obviously in favour of Tino Livramento. He is an attacking fullback, whereas Pontus Jansson is a centre-back. That being said, Pontus Jansson is obviously still getting into the box a little bit from corners, and as you can see from his touch map, he is getting into the box a little bit and managing to get a few touches in the box. Livramento's touch map, though, is absolutely outstanding. This is exactly what you want from a budget defender. This is what you want from any defender. He almost looks like he's playing like a right mid, at some points like a right winger. Even when he's getting into attack, he's getting into the sort of like positions that a Riyad Mahrez or a Mo Salah would get into. Obviously, he's not left-footed and he's not cutting in on the left, but it is a very, very promising touch map, and he does look like he's nailed in that Southampton defence. So you would say, just by looking at the touch maps, that he may be he might be a better option than Pontus Jansson. If we just scroll down a little bit, as you know you can do on the Fantasy Football Fix website, there are loads of different maps you can look at. If we take a look at shot maps, it completely changes. Livramento's only had one shot in the box. It was a good chance that he had that, but the other two have been way outside the box. If you hover over them, you can see expected goals of 0.03 and 0.03. So they're sort of long-range hopeful shots. Whereas Pontus Jansson, 0.5, great opportunity. 0.3 once again, and this one was 0.5, but they're all from corners, and therefore they're probably more clear-cut than the sort of long shots that Livramento is taking. Outside of that, attempted assist, you can see, as you would expect, Livramento is the slightly more creative of the two, that you wouldn't expect a centre-back to be particularly creative in the box. A lot of Livramento's chances that he's creating are coming from outside. But I think looking overall, you would say that Livramento's the more likely to have more routes to points. But Pontus Jansson, as we saw with the shot maps, he looks like he might be the one to be getting those clear-cut shooting opportunities, which is really interesting. If you carry on scrolling down when you're on this player heat map section of the Fantasy Fix website, you can compare them on a number of things. But what I like to do is I like to scroll all the way down to their average statistics per 90. You can see there, because what this does is it mitigates playing time, and it lets you know what their statistics are if they both get 90 minutes. Obviously, both of these players are likely to get pretty much 90 minutes each game. Pontus Jansson is nailed, whereas Livramento might miss the odd minute here and there. You can see neither of them has scored, but straight away we can see by the blue colour in that Pontus Jansson has a higher goal threat. We can also see that they're having about the same amount of shots. We saw that they've both had 3 shots across the first 8 game weeks. Obviously, Pontus Jansson hasn't played tonight, so this is just from the first 7 game weeks for Pontus Jansson. Shots on target, equal. Shots in the box, as we saw with the shot maps, Pontus Jansson is coming out on top. Goal assist, Jansson has an assist, whereas Livramento has none. But as you can see with the creativity stats, Livramento is coming out on top. More than double the amount of expected assists, more than triple the amount of attempted assists. They're equal for big chances created. They've both created 1 big chance. And Livramento is, of course, having more crosses. What I would say based on this, then, is I think they're both great options. I think Livramento is probably the more exciting player to own. Pontus Jansson, what you're really looking for is you're looking for a big chance in the box from a corner. But both players look really, really good coming up. What we're now going to take a look at is comparing multiple budget defenders and also having a quick look at the fixtures, because I think the fixtures are great for both Livramento and Jansson, but it may change. If you need a defender in a specific week, that may change the defender that you choose moving forward. So let's take a look at that now. So just quickly before we look at the fixtures for the budget defenders, I just wanted to basically show you the 4 budget defenders that if you're looking to take some money out of your defence, or if you're maybe playing your wildcard in Gameweek 9, etc., these are the 4 that I would be looking to either bring in, use your free transfers on, or bring in on your wildcard. In my wildcard that I've just played, I've only got Livramento, but if I had to, it probably would have been Livramento and Duffy. And I'm not sure I've seen a massive amount to change my mind on that, seeing as Duffy just kept another clean sheet with Brighton. But on the fixed comparison matrix, what you can do is you can choose the players that you want to look at. So you can see right here, I've chosen Livramento, Jansson, Duffy, and White. Jansson is projected to get the highest points over the next 5 game weeks. You can see the projected points over the next 5. Jansson has 16.3. White is second with 15.1, and then Duffy and Livramento after that. Now, the reason for that isn't necessarily the attacking threat of Jansson and White, because theirs is actually probably lower than Duffy's. It's more so the fixtures coming up for Brentford and Arsenal, as we'll discuss in a minute. So it's definitely worth looking at. Yes, we want some attacking potential, but we also do want nice fixtures coming up. And what I like potentially most about Janssen and White is I would say they are the two most nailed players here. I think they're both very nailed in their teams. They're both very, very good centre-backs for their club, so I can't see either of those missing out too much. Duffy has played basically every minute so far. I think he's played exactly every minute, but outside of that, I think he does have the potential to be dropped eventually for the likes of Veltman coming into centre-back when Lamptey comes back or when Webster's back from injury. I've chosen to compare them on, outside of projected points, 3 different things on the left. So these are just 3 things that I would look at from an attacking perspective. Obviously, it's important to look at defensive data, but you also want your defenders to be pretty attacking as well. So I've got touches in the box. As you can see, Duffy is top for 2.4 touches in the box per game. So I've chosen to go average per game. Duffy is top with 2.4. Outside of that, Livramento's had a reasonable amount at 1.4, but obviously nowhere near as many as Duffy's. Duffy's having at least an extra touch in the box every game. And then Janssen at 0.9 and White at 0.4. So once again, Janssen and White probably aren't the most involved in the box, but they are very, very good, solid centre-backs for their club. White, we know, if you choose White, you're choosing it for the fixtures, not the attacking threat. And expected FPL involvement is very, very close. None of them are really expected to get many FPL returns per game. And then expected FPL points, Janssen actually comes out on top, and that's probably a combination of he's got decent expected data, and also Brentford have been fantastic defensively. Just underneath that is Duffy at 4.8, and then after that you've got Livramento and White as well. So I think all 4 of these are great options. I don't think it necessarily has to be Janssen. I think Rico Henry's a great option, and he's obviously not rising in price tonight, so don't feel like you've got to be rushed into going out and picking up Janssen. But I do quite like the look of Brentford defenders. And then outside of that, you've got Livramento, Duffy and White. So I think all 4 of these are great budget options. Let's take a really quick look at the fixtures now to see if any of them stand out when looking at fixtures. So as I said, finally, we're just going to take a really quick look at the fixtures coming up from a defensive point of view. So on the Fantasy Football Fix website, you can order, using the fixture analyzer, you can order how difficult the fixtures are by the defensive difficulty or attacking difficulty. Obviously, you want to look at attacking difficulty as well if you want to look at how much attacking threat the defenders might have. But largely, we want to be looking at defensive data here. So as you can see, Chelsea have the best fixtures from game week 9 until game week 13, 14. Outside of that, it's Leeds. But then you can see in third, we do have Southampton. So Livramento is a fantastic option over the coming weeks. They've got Burnley, Watford, Villa, Norwich, then Liverpool and Leicester. So really it is the next 4 fixtures. So what I would say is I think Livramento's a season-long keeper, absolutely, if he continues to keep his place. But if you are going to bring him in, the next 4 fixtures in particular, Burnley next week as well, are great fixtures to have him for. He's even great as a first sub. I probably won't start him most weeks, but I do like to have him as an option. So you can see Southampton are ranked 3rd. Outside of that, the players we were just looking at, Brentford are then a little bit lower down. Leicester, the next game, it's not great. But after that, these are the fixtures I was talking about. Burnley, Norwich and Newcastle, the 3 after Leicester, are fantastic fixtures from both a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I like the likes of Rico Henry or Pontus Jansson. I like the idea of having a Brentford defender. You might even have someone like Raya in goal instead of Ramsdale. I like that as well. So I definitely think it might be worth investing in a Brentford defender coming up. And they have looked defensively solid so far this season. If you keep scrolling down after that, you can see Arsenal are quite a bit lower than we thought. They've actually got Villa, Leicester, Watford, Liverpool, Newcastle and United. So the fixtures aren't great, but there are a few good ones in there. So you'd need to look at your rotations and look at whether you could rotate White into your team, because the fixtures, apart from Villa and Watford, they do have Leicester, Liverpool. The Newcastle fixture's quite nice, but then Manchester United. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I'm not necessarily sure you would want to play Ben White every single week, but I do think he is a good option for some of the weeks. If you keep scrolling down, right at the bottom, 3rd from bottom, you do have Brighton. So whilst Duffy has been an amazing attacking threat, I'm not necessarily sure that now's the time to bring him in. You can see Man City and Liverpool in the next 2. They do then have Newcastle, Aston Villa and Leeds. So if you can bench him for the next 2, I don't mind him. But considering that he might lose his place in the future, I think that maybe you might have missed the boat on Duffy, but by all means go for it if you think so. But I do find this really useful to look at the fixtures. So if I was now choosing to bring in a budget defender, I would probably say either Livramento or Pontus Jansson. Immediate short term, I would say Livramento. If you're waiting a week or 2, potentially a Brentford defender in someone like Pontus Jansson. So those are the defensive difficulty of the fixtures coming up. As I said, I think all of the budget options are great. Livramento and Jansson look like they're rising in price tonight. I would probably be focusing on bringing in Tino Livramento for me. So guys, there you have it. Those are the predicted price rises and price falls for this evening. Not that many, but again, because it is the weekend, the transfer activity is quite volatile and things can change. So always make sure to check for yourself after you've watched the videos in the evening by heading to fantasyfootballfix.com or by downloading our free app and enabling push notifications. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. We really do appreciate the support. And until next time, which will of course be tomorrow evening with me, I'll catch you soon, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.